5,000 years of silence ended when a man emerged from the ice, more complete than any ancient human ever found. His body was so well preserved it looked as if he had died yesterday, yet he had been lying in a frozen tomb for millennia. Scientists would eventually call him the most intensively studied human being in history, not a king, not a pharaoh, but an ordinary man whose death turned out to be anything but ordinary. He would become a murder victim whose case spanned thousands of years. But it all began in the autumn of 1991, when two hikers wandered into history. On September 19th of that year, a German couple was trekking through the thawing glaciers of the Italian Alps when they spotted something protruding from the melting ice. At first glance, it looked like the aftermath of a climbing accident, a weathered body half buried in snow and rock. They assumed it had been there for weeks, maybe a month at most. They couldn't have known they had stumbled across one of the most significant archaeological finds of the century. What happened next was a blur of confusion. Over the next 5 days, 8 different rescue and recovery teams converged on the site, hacking through the ice with everything from ice axes to power drills. Reinhold Messner, the legendary mountaineer, even stopped by to see the spectacle for himself. No one realized they were inadvertently destroying critical evidence of a murder that had been frozen in time for more than 5,000 years. Then came the political tug-of-war. The find sat near the Austrian-Italian border, so surveyors took precise GPS measurements to decide whose jurisdiction it fell under. The answer? It was exactly 92.56 meters inside Italian territory. Austria had lost possession of a prehistoric corpse by less than the length of a football field, the kind of thing no politician ever wants to explain to Parliament. The hikers, Helmut and Erika Simon, spent the next 17 years in a bitter legal battle for their finder's reward. As if that wasn't strange enough, more claimants appeared over a decade later, insisting they had discovered the body first. One woman went so far as to claim she had spat on the corpse to mark it with her DNA as proof. Yes, someone actually licked a 5,000-year-old mummy and thought it would stand up in court. Once the scientists got him, they named him Otzi, after the Ötztal Alps where he was found. For 10 years they cataloged every fiber of his clothing, every tool, every scrap of food in his digestive tract. They established that he lived around 5,300 years ago and had died violently. But they completely missed the crucial detail that would change everything. In 2001, during a routine X-ray, researchers spotted something buried in his left shoulder, a small flint arrowhead, 13 millimeters across. He had been shot from behind. The arrow had sliced a major artery, causing him to bleed to death within minutes. The angle suggested the shooter was lower on the slope, hidden and waiting for the right moment. This was no accident, it was an execution. The body told more of the story. Fresh cuts on his hands and wrists were identified as defensive wounds. DNA analysis found blood from 4 different people on his possessions, 1 on his knife blade, 2 on a single arrowhead, indicating he had killed 2 opponents with the same weapon and retrieved it each time, and a 4th on his clothing, likely from carrying a wounded companion. This was no simple ambush. Otzi had been in a desperate running fight for his life. Picture it, more than 5 millennia ago, long before the pyramids rose in Egypt, a man was fleeing through the high passes of the Alps. He was injured, exhausted, perhaps carrying a dying friend. His pursuers were close. He reached a sheltered spot where he might have rested, but they found him. The arrow hit with such force that its wooden shaft splintered on impact, leaving only the flint head buried deep inside him. The killer took back the shaft, but extracting the stone point would have required tools, so it stayed lodged in his body for thousands of years. And that was just the start of the surprises. In 2012, scientists announced they had found intact red blood cells in Otzi's body, the oldest complete human blood cells ever identified. Under a microscope, they looked fresh, as if drawn only yesterday. Even stranger, for almost 2 decades, Researchers believed his stomach had decayed entirely. Then, in 2009, a CT scan revealed it had simply been pushed up under his rib cage by the pressure of the ice, perfectly preserved and still containing his final meal. Wild goat meat, grains, and plants consumed just 2 hours before his death. Even his appearance turned out to be wrong. For decades, museum reconstructions showed him as a light-skinned man with long hair. Then, in 2023, genetic testing revealed he actually had dark skin and was completely bald, an image very different from the one schoolchildren had been taught for 30 years. While Otzi's story seemed extraordinary, it was only a gateway to an even bigger tale. The ice itself was giving up other secrets. In June 2022, in Canada's Yukon, a miner named Travis Mudry uncovered something soft in the permafrost. The body of a baby woolly mammoth, so well preserved she still had her trunk, tail, ears, and internal organs. Local Trondic Wet'suwet'en elders named her Nunchoga, big baby animal. She had died around 30,000 years ago, yet looked as if she had fallen only recently. The finds didn't stop there. In 2024, in Siberia's Bottigiaka crater, known locally as the Mouth of Hell, scientists discovered another baby mammoth, named Yuka, preserved for more than 50,000 years, still complete with head, trunk, legs, and internal organs. Incredibly, her body still contained liquid blood. In 2018, researchers cut open the body of a 42,000-year-old foal and watched dark red blood flow out, fresh liquid from an animal dead since before humans had mastered fire. The catalog of ancient life kept expanding. The first complete cave bear carcass, its soft tissues intact after 15,000 years. Woolly rhinoceroses with their horns still attached. Wolves with thick, shiny coats. Lions from the Pleistocene Arctic. Each one pushed back the limits of what scientists believed possible in preservation. Some researchers and biotech companies like Colossal Biosciences began exploring whether such preserved DNA could be used to bring these creatures back. Already, Asian elephant cells have been modified with dozens of genetic edits to resemble those of mammoths, with the goal of producing hybrid calves within a few years. The prospect of a real-life Ice Age resurrection seemed almost within reach. But alongside the excitement came troubling questions. The melting permafrost that revealed these wonders is also destroying them, and the conditions that kept them intact are disappearing fast. There is a race to recover and study these remains before they decompose forever. And not all the remains belong to extinct animals. Some are human ancestors, raising ethical battles over consent and cultural respect. Indigenous communities across the Arctic argue that scientists often remove and study these remains without proper consultation, turning archaeology into a form of grave robbing. Every body pulled from the ice carries a frozen moment in time. A hunter shot down in a mountain pass, a mammoth calf separated from its mother, a cave bear perishing in the endless dark of winter. Yet these are also stories of resilience, of life enduring impossible conditions, of biological processes surviving tens of thousands of years in suspended animation. The person who loosed the arrow that ended Otzi's life likely believed he had erased his enemy forever. He could never have imagined that his act would be dissected in forensic detail by people living in a world of satellites, DNA sequencing, and global communication. The man he killed has become the best documented murder victim in human history. And even now, in labs from Italy to Siberia to Canada, scientists continue to draw secrets from his body, alongside the bodies of mammoths, bears, and other creatures that time forgot. The ice has been our planet's archivist, keeping records no human knew existed. Now, as it melts, it is releasing those records all at once, stories of struggle, survival, and mystery that challenge what we think we know about life and death. Somewhere out there, sealed in the frozen ground, are more stories waiting. Perhaps they are of friendship, betrayal, or survival against unimaginable odds. The ice has remembered them all. And now, one by one, it is letting them go.